Hiya Fluffs, and welcome to Korvus The Kanine Inkorporated, the only podcast hosted by a furry named Korvus The Kanine. Now, today's guest has a very significant meaning to me in this fandom, which will be touched on later, but I'm very happy to have him here. He's one of the first two furry YouTubers I found in this fandom, the first furry I've ever actually communicated with, and the man that I've blown most of my money on in my life. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the most not safe for work YouTuber out there, Nos Hyena. How are you today, sir?
Hi, Nos Hyena here at Korvus. Thank you for that amazing introduction. I am honored, I guess, to be part of your furry journey, and I'm really happy to be here. And yeah, I'm doing fantastic.
That's good to hear. I am happy to have you. Do you want to just give a little introduction on who you are, what you do, and why you like to drink so much?
So for y'all who don't know me, my name is Nos Hyena. I am a furry YouTuber, a musician, a fursuiter, and most people know me for my YouTube content. I've put out almost 100 videos on YouTube, various skits and goofs, some vlogs, some original music. I also am, I guess, somewhat of a Twitter personality. You can see a lot of my general shenanigans on Twitter, and yeah, I'm all over the internet. Nos Hyena is pretty much my handle on every major social media website. That's NOSHYENA. And I make all of my videos in a basement in Ohio. So that's how I'm riding at this pandemic right now.
Who doesn't love Ohio?
Pretty much all the furries are in Ohio.
Yeah, it seems that way. I know, I'm not too familiar with, I suck at geography with, like, everything. I know you and Kiwi are in Ohio, that's, like, it. I think, is Majira in Ohio, or?
Yeah, Majira. So actually, Majira and Kiwi actually live in the same house. I believe. As far as I know, they still live in the same house in Ohio. But they're on the other end of the state.
Okay, so it's not like you can just go say Hiya whenever you want or anything.
I mean, theoretically, yeah, but it's probably, what, a 4-hour drive, so it'd be a long Hiya.
Yeah, it would be. Alright, so I'm just gonna start throwing questions at you, just answer them to the best of your ability, and maybe we'll learn more about you as a person.
Okay, sounds good. Alright,
so in every one of these podcasts I've done, I have started off with the most random question in the world, because you know me. Nos, currently, what's your favorite song?
Oh, goodness. I'm just gonna, like, go to my Spotify right now and see what I've got on loop.
Alright.
Okay, but no, if with no prompt, I guess right now, You Get What You Give by the New Radicals. Very, I guess, inspirational, maybe a little anti-establishment. I'm trying to think what else. That's what came to mind. Also, I love Fits in the Tantrums. That's what came up on my repeat. I love, Picking Up the Pieces by Fits in the Tantrums. I love Jukebox the Ghost as well. So they're both, like, Fits and Jukebox are both, like, indie bands. And I also love me some Ben Folds 5. Been listening to a lot of him recently. Oh, and Pegboard Nerds. Love me Pegboard Nerds. They're an EDM duo from somewhere in Europe. So I have very eclectic music tastes, and that's just what came off the top of my head, because Spotify was still loading as I was answering that question.
Alright. Well, I'm not too good with recognizing songs from, like, their name, but I'm sure I've at least heard one of those somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, probably, you've probably heard some of Fits in the Tantrums on commercials. So if you go through their Spotify, go through their most played, you've probably heard some of them on, like, a Target or a Walmart commercial at some point in your life.
Okay, so they're one of those bands that's, like, everyone's heard at some point because we're forced to?
Yeah, but you might not know them by name, so one of those bands, yeah.
Well, I will definitely look them up later. So, as a furry YouTuber, you've made quite a few songs, actually, such as
I'm grinding for that fursuit, grinding for that fursuit, grinding for that fursuit, grinding for that fursuit.
You're such an awesome friend, I love you. You're such an awesome friend, I love you.
And
Furry gang, furry gang, furry gang, furry gang, furry gang, furry gang, furry gang.
So I was just wondering, what actually made you want to start making songs like that?
So that's a great question, Korvus. So, probably something my audience doesn't know or I haven't spoken about a lot. I've been making music my entire life, as in, I started on piano lessons when I was about 4 or 5, and started making little ditties at some stage in my early childhood, so music's always been a part of my life. So, just kind of like breathing and exercising for some people, and, any hobby that's a core part of someone's identity in life, music's just always something I've been making. And as soon as I found the furry fandom, I just sort of started making music that was furry, or at least under my persona. So that was back in 2015. So there is a trail of Nos Hyena music on the internet, especially in my fur affinity around 2015. So that's kind of the start of the furry music stuff. I've just always been making music, and the furry music was just a byproduct of me making music my entire life.
Okay. Well, on that note, is there any songs or like anything that you actually made before you joined the fandom, or did you see the fandom as kind of an opportunity to actually start getting stuff out there?
So, Korvus, that's a great question. I definitely have been making music and putting it on the internet for a long time, but I sort of saw furry as kind of a clean slate, and I actually don't think much of my old music is out there on the internet. I mean, you can try. Actually, I think if you go and look up the dinosaur named Moschorhinus, I think that's Moschorhinus, you can probably find an old song of mine from like 2011 or 2012. But besides from that, I don't think there's a lot of old pre-Nos Hyena music on the internet, because, I don't know, I just want to have my best stuff out there, and I guess anything I removed, I didn't want to be out there anymore. So it does exist, it's just that you probably won't really get the chance to hear it in terms of old music.
Yeah, that's completely understandable. I have a terrible YouTube channel that I had before I joined the fandom, and I don't know why I haven't deleted it yet, but it's still out there, and I hate it, but I just haven't gone and gotten rid of it for some reason. So I can absolutely understand that.
I totally know that feel, Korvus. Totally know that. And actually, if you go back and look at, this is probably a video from 2017, maybe 2018. I did actually do a video as Human Nos, looking back at some of my old YouTube channels. So if you want to see what pre-Nos Hyena YouTube was like, from anywhere from like 2009 to 2014. If you go to a video that I have called Reacting to My Old YouTube Videos, it's something like that. Then you can go see my old, maybe pretty cringeworthy stuff. But I still enjoy it, even though it makes me wince a little bit. It's still fun to go back and watch too. Because, it was important to me back then. And it helped me get to where I am today, even if it does make me cringe a bit.
Yeah, and I think that's also what it is for me, is I just kind of feel like if I delete the entire channel, it's like that's getting rid of all the memories that came along with it. So I can understand that, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. You can always also just keep the videos for yourself, download them, and then just delete it as well. But I haven't gone and done that yet, so shows that I'm on the same page with you.
Yeah, exactly. Going back to the whole music thing, so with the songs that you've made, along with that, you also spent a good time. I don't know if you still do it, but I know you spent a good time being a DJ at some cons and stuff like that. Is DJing something that you didn't really do until joining the fandom, or is that kind of something that you've always had an interest in, and this was just kind of an opportunity to express that?
So, Korvus, that's a great question. I basically took up DJing in the fandom. So I took up DJing as a way to play my original music, the electronic music I made in Ableton Live, out to the public and the furries. So I wanted a vehicle to perform my original music, and the way to do that was by DJing, because when you DJ and you have your own music, you usually mix in, other people's music and then your own music. Obviously, most furry DJs, I'd say, don't produce their own music, or it's not a focus of what they do. But if you are an original producer, it's a big opportunity to get into DJing and be able to play your music out at the dances of the con on a big stage. It was something that I did more before my YouTube started to kind of gain traction, and I think I DJ'd maybe 4 or 5 cons in 2016, and then just a couple in 2017 when I started Nos's channel. And I've probably only DJ'd like 2 conventions, or maybe 3 or 4 different things total, including online events, since starting my YouTube channel. So there's definitely been a shift. I still like DJing, but I find that with DJing, there's a lot of upkeep. You have to spend a lot of time finding new tracks and discovering new music, and it's quite a time investment, and I just don't feel like I have enough of that time investment currently to I guess keep up at the level that I was hoping to be, back before I started doing YouTube, because it's a big time consuming hobby, just like YouTube or Twitch streaming or any other kind of creative thing in the fandom. So I do love it, but I haven't done it in a while.
Yeah, okay, that's understandable. I can see how doing that would be a good opportunity to just kind of, show everyone what you're about, all the stuff that you make. So around when do you think you started that? Was that before you even had a suit or anything like that, or was that, because I remember you made a video, I think it was a few years ago, correct me if I'm wrong, because I probably am, but you made a video about your experiences in joining the fandom, and in that you brought up your first suit, which was a kangaroo. I can't remember the name right now, but I remember you told a whole story about that. Did you originally start DJing with that Kangaroo SONA, or was that something like before that or after that, or what was the whole story there?
So that's a great question, Korvus. Essentially, when I joined Furry, and actually the current Twitter account I have, Nos Hyena, I made it in, I think, July 2015. So Nos was essentially my first persona. Like, I had other kind of ideas for a persona, but the first one that actually stuck was Nos Hyena, and I made that in, I think, around July 2015. And that's when I made all the, Twitter, Facebook accounts, etc., etc. And the kangaroo suit, and his name's Booger, and it's actually from an old TV show. It's actually a cosplay, technically. It's a fursuit and cosplay. And I bought this suit secondhand from a maker called Dustin the Fox in Australia, a very talented fursuit maker. And that fursuit was like 7 or 8 years old, right? So I didn't do any DJing in that, but because I didn't have my Nos fursuit until 2017, so that's like, almost like, well, it's the end of 2016. So it was like 18 months in the fandom without my Nos fursuit, right? So I would use my kangaroo fursuit if I wanted to perform. I'd go to bowling meets and wear my kangaroo fursuit, but I never actually DJ'd with him on. The first time I actually DJ'd in fursuit was, I think at Anthro New England in 2017. And some people had done that before me, but I think I was still one of the first people to actually do like a DJ set, almost a full DJ set in suit. And there's plenty of people that have done it before me, but I think after I did that, a lot of people started to do it after as well, so I think I was early to the trend. But I didn't do it in my Roost set, but I did do it in my Hyena fursuit shortly after I got him at the very end of 2016. So it's fun, but it's infinitely harder, and I actually probably wouldn't do it again, because it's fun the first time, but I want to see, and I don't need to be in a fursuit to perform for people. I can be out of suit as well.
Yeah, so it was just kind of one of those things that's like, I'll try this one time, and then you found out it's not for you. So
yeah, exactly. And some things I've tried once and wanted to do it a ton of times. Like YouTube was kind of like a one-off thing that turned into like, oh, I'm gonna make this all the time. And that's a big thing about being a creative. You just try a bunch of different things and kind of see what sticks.
Yeah, that's what I've enjoyed about making videos thus far. I haven't made very many, but I've tried to do a little bit of a variety here, and I started off just making some videos about me as a person and how I joined the fandom and all that, which my first video you actually made a cameo in, which I still appreciate.
Yeah. What's a Korvus?
Yeah, so I started off making just videos about about me, then I've also started doing these podcasts recently. I did one with Benji the Beagle and Stormy Wolf, and I had a really fun time with those. And now you're number 3, so hiya. But
Yay! Hi!
along with that, I've also kind of started a series about specific hobbies and lifestyles in the fandom. And first one I made, it was on inflatable furs, and that's sitting at almost 1,000 views now. And I'm kind of panicking over that one because I'm still small.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And it's really surreal the first time that your content kind of starts to, and pun intended, blow up. Because I remember I'm making this was back in 2017, the 40 signs you furry trash video. And by the way, my YouTube channel just blew up at a crazy speed. I wasn't prepared for it. It really just just blew up. I can't think of any synonyms for that, right? But I remember I'm putting up that 40 signs of furry trash video. I was in a college class. I was supposed to be doing my work, but I was posting this video. And then I looked back in an hour and it had 500 views. I'm like, holy crap, that's twice the, views my other video had in total, and I got it in an hour, and it's very, very surreal, and it's quite a exciting dopamine rush. There's nothing quite like that sort of first video that blows up. It's a very fun memory,
Yeah, it definitely is. And I remember, back when I first kind of joined the fandom and all that, and I started coming into your live streams, I remember at one point, I was kind of I was in your chat, and I'm like, hey, my goal is to hit 10 subscribers. That didn't last very long, because I hit that fairly fast, because everyone in your live streams are so hecking nice.
Oh, yeah. And one thing, I'll give you a compliment. I think you're very engaged and very curious, and I think that's why people are drawn to you, your personality, and you ask very interesting questions, and you research your guests, and that's such a very, very important thing about being a podcaster. I haven't actually podcasted myself. Really, I think I did a podcast back in the day, but I haven't done a podcast with guests or anything like that. So you're off to a great start with number 3. I gotta say, if I can put in my 2 cents. I've been on a guest for a couple podcasts, but I haven't produced one myself. But I guess this is technically the first furry podcast I've been in. I've been on a furry adjacent one, but this is the first furry podcast I've been. So you can say that. Nos's first furry podcast. We'll go with that.
All right. So, speaking of me, joining the live streams and all that, I actually, in the intro, I said you kind of have a significant meaning to me in the fandom, and I kind of wanted to explain that because it's probably weird to just say. So, basically, I joined the fandom back in July of 2019, and I wasn't really involved in the community or any of that. I just kind of... I found some stuff on YouTube, and I found it interesting because fursuits are cute as heck. But I've never really been an outgoing person, so I wasn't really ready to get involved in the community or anything like that. But I stuck with YouTube, and, upon just kind of watching random videos from my recommended section, there were 2 channels that I had actually gotten into and subscribed to and watched pretty much every video I could find of them. First one was Adler the Eagle. I watched all of his animations and all that. And the second one was you, because I enjoyed skits and stuff like that, and you made a lot of those. So,
yay!
I believe the night that I found you, you were actually live streaming, and I never have anything better to do, so I just I joined in, and this was around the time I had my first job and didn't really have... I was not good at spending money at all, because I didn't really have anything to spend it on, so I spent a majority of my time donating it to people, and you were definitely the one I've donated the most to. But, after that, it was kind of became a regular thing. Anytime I saw you were streaming, I joined in, I said my piece, sent some money to you, and went on with my day. But I remember since I wasn't very involved in the community, like you were answering all of these random questions I was giving you and actually, communicating with me, and I really appreciated that to the point that there was one day that your donation goal was like it was somewhat close to the end, and I finished it and kind of gave you a big sentimental message about how I haven't really been a popular person my whole life, and the fandom's kind of shown me that there can be something great. I'm scared to actually reach out to it. And from there, you pretty much demanded me to give you my Instagram and told everyone in the stream to follow me there. And from there, me and you kind of started talking from time to time, and because of how nice you were, it kind of pushed me to actually start getting involved in the community, which is when I joined Stormy the Wolf's Patreon group chat, and I've met like the most important people in my entire life through that group chat. So I really thank you for that. I since you are like the first person I started communicating with, I technically consider you the first friend I've kind of made here because I didn't know anyone until I started talking to you. So I appreciate that. But while we're on this topic, I was just wondering before you well yeah before you joined the fandom, was there really anyone that kind of helped nudge you into it, or you know did something really important for you that kind of made you want to uh, pull through with it?
So Corvus, that story was so freaking sweet, bud. Like I'm glad that I can be part of your journey, dude. That's really awesome. It's really humbling, very sweet, and one thing that, I always clarify this during my streams. Clearly, you turned out okay, but I always stress during my streams with the donations. Make sure it doesn't affect your quality of life. I know you were working, so, I appreciate your support a ton, but I just want to put it out there, like, I make so sure that if people are donating, they're not they're not gonna lose their car or their house or anything like that, because I don't want anyone to put themselves in that position. You know what I mean? Like I'm afraid to ask for money from people for that reason. You know what I mean? I want to make sure people are like financially stable. Just need to put that out there for official reasons. But dude, that's really, really sweet, in the fact that I could be part of your journey and inspire you to get more involved. And Stormy's a great guy, and he's got a good group of people, so I'm so glad that you can be part of that community. Like, that's really awesome, dude, and I'm glad that you found furry friends. Like, that's freaking amazing, man. That's, when you find out about the furry fandom, like, that's kind of what you want, at least at some unconscious level, other furry people to be able to hang out with, and people you look up to that you can become buddies with, like that's always awesome. And also, that's happened to me too, man. Like, I would say, I'll just give you this, okay? One furry way back in the day that, would have been considered, like, I guess, a quote-unquote popular and was honestly really popular, and I only really ever just heard of him through people's live journals and, for affinity art. This suitor called Brocken T. Wolf, and he's from the Bay, and he was just a very well-known suitor in the fandom. He had a ton of fursuits that he made himself, had some very popular characters, and I always looked up to this guy, at a young age, without actually ever meeting him. And then, even though I never actually talked to him, that kind of planted the seed that it's like, wow, you can be your own character and perform and hang out with other people with characters as well. And then probably like 10, 15 years later, this was way after I started my Nos channel, we actually chatted a bit on Twitter, and that was really cool. And we haven't met in real life, but just the fact that this guy that I was looking up to and always thought was the coolest, I'm now chatting with, and I'm friendly with, and I'm buddies with, like, that's freaking awesome, So that's my one example. There's probably countless examples of people that I looked up to in the early days of furry. Like, we're talking the late 2000s, when I first found furry, like anywhere from 2006 to 2009, when I first started looking at furry stuff. But I think the big difference between new furries today and new furries of yesteryear, so like new furries of yesteryear like myself, there wasn't really a way back in the day that you could contact the people that you looked up to. You just sort of kind of watched from afar. But these days with YouTube and things like Patreon and Twitch streamers, all that kind of stuff, some of the people that are looked up to and do have a visible presence, there's a way to connect with furs. So I think furries become a lot more like more welcoming in terms of ease of saying hi to the people that you look up to, because back in the day it was a lot harder. So yeah, that's just a little tidbit from my early furry days, I guess. So yeah.
Okay, that's awesome to hear. I'm glad that was able to help you find everything. 'Cause, I mean, if I didn't find you, I wouldn't have a lot of the things I do now. So I appreciate you existing.
Hey, Korvus, I appreciate you existing too, man. And this has been super fun, dude. What I always say, is I try and pay it forward, There's been a lot of people along my journey that have given me a chance and been really kind and generous and, just awesome to me. And the way that I actually try and pay it back is to pay it forward and try and inspire other people as well. So the fact that I could, it's really humbling, and I've had a ton of fun on here, dude. And I hope to see you put out hundreds and hundreds more of these podcasts, because from where it is right now to where I think it's gonna go, like you're off to a really great start, dude.
Alright, so last night I was talking in a group call between Stormy's Patreon group, because that's where I spend most of my time, is just talking to them. And my friend Tibbs had a question, actually, that he wanted me to ask you. And it's about your intro, your very high-pitched Hiya. He actually you did it at the beginning of this podcast. But because of you, he's kind of started actually greeting people in his real life like that, as honestly have I. My podcast intro is Hiya Fluffs. Like, you've made a lot of people just start saying Hiya a lot more often. So I was just wondering, what exactly is it that that made you kind of start making that your intro and just kind of your trademark, I guess?
So with the Hiya stuff, basically, if you go back to my early videos, you'll see that it kind of just spontaneously appeared out of nowhere. I remember my first couple of videos, I actually said, like, "Hi, it's Nos." And then I think probably my fourth or fifth video, I just said Hiya. And then I think people started mimicking it in the comments, and then it just kind of went on from there as my official intro. I think it's good to take your time and flesh out what is a good intro for yourself, but I definitely acknowledge that, Hiya has definitely caught on for a lot of people that I've come in contact with, and I can't say that I own the word. It's just a word that I guess I've made my own in a sense.
So this next question is more directed towards you as a person in the real world rather than in the fandom, because this is something that I've actually kind of just been wondering about you. So back when you joined the fandom, you explained in your video where you picked up your first fursuit that before you did that, that was when you were moving to America. So I was just wondering, what's it been like for you making the change from living in Australia for as long as you did to America? Like, what kinds of differences and struggles have you faced upon doing that?
So that's a great question, Korvus. I moved to the States about 6 years ago, and I came here for college, but it was almost like a no-brainer to me when I did actually get the opportunity to come here, because I just always wanted to come to the US. I just had this obsession with the United States since I was a young child. So I would say most of the transition was excitement. I mean, certainly there are times that I miss home, especially near the start, but there was a lot of excitement because, I was coming in, I was being a mascot, and then I eventually found furry, so there were a lot of things that felt like family over here, even though I wasn't physically close to my family in terms of proximity. In terms of differences between Australian and US culture, besides from the obvious things like the lingo and the accents, a lot of the things are pretty subtle, honestly. I think there's a lot of different, pardon me, I think there's a lot of similarities between the two cultures. I think because the US is, in a lot of respects, a lot more diverse in every sense of the word, I think in a lot of ways, a lot of people that you meet here are even more out there and even more expressive. There's less shyness to the people of the US than in Australia. That's what I would say generally. Like, Australians are boisterous and, loud in their own way, but I think the people that I've met here are a little bit more expressive on the whole. And obviously you can find that in Australia tons too. I just found that the culture is more accepting of, I guess kind of talking about yourself, if that kind of makes sense. I guess because it's so diverse here, it's in some ways, for me, I'm talking from my experience, it's easy to carve out one's own identity because there's a lot more diversity in what you see. You travel 100 miles down the road and, there's a different city and a different way of life, and it's obviously not that extreme every single part of the US, but, you go to different corners of the country and you see a lot of different experiences, whereas I'd feel like Australia is a little bit more homogenous in terms of you go to a different part and it still feels relatively the same. There's not much of a culture shock between states.
So for this last question, I'm actually not going to ask about you, Nos, but we discussed briefly some sonas that you've had. You said that Nos was your first sona and your main one. But then there's also Bugga, and I don't know which other ones you've made, but there is one we haven't touched on, and that's everyone's favorite deer out there, Gideon. And I was kind of just wondering what your inspiration behind Gideon was. Like, did you just make him to show your bottom side, or what? What's the story to that?
So, Gideon's character kind of just naturally evolved. There was no kind of intent behind it, except that I wanted to get a cool-looking deer fursuit, and Gideon was very, very reasonably priced. Shout out to Stinker Suits for making that, maker in Mexico. But Gideon's personality just kind of developed very organically, and there's not really much else there to say except, I guess it helps in the videos having someone who's somewhat opposite of Nos, and I think that adds a lot more potential depth to videos when you have somebody who's kind of a striking contrast from Nos a lot of the time. I think the term is a foil, but they work off each other well, and it was a very organic growth because I didn't really know where to take the character when I first got the suit, and you can see that in the unboxing video. It's something that developed over time.
Well, thank you so much, Nos, for coming onto the podcast, just kind of talking to me a little bit, teaching my audience more about you as a person. Like I said, you've helped me with a lot in the fandom, and you're honestly a hecking sweetheart. So just thank you for everything. I appreciate you spending time out of your day to come do this with me. And yeah, everyone go subscribe to Nos Hyena if you have not yet.
Thanks so much, Korvus, and everyone go subscribe to Korvus as well. This has been fun, and you're a great interviewer, man, and I can't wait to watch this online.
All right. Well, yes, and thank you all for watching. I hope you all liked it. Stay hydrated, stay positive, and stay fluffy. Bye-bye.
Bye!